Welcome back to Auntie's Cakery. I'm Tracy. Back in 2017, I published this video as a pay-per-view, and now I am making it available for everyone absolutely free. So I hope you enjoy it. So about 3 days before I started the actual cake, I made this little template of lattice work. And here I'm using some turquoise royal icing. And I'm using a #1 Wilton writing tip. I want the lattice all one relief. This is why I'm going back and forth instead of doing straight lines one way, diagonal, and straight lines the other way. I'm going to take some flooding consistency icing, and I'm filling in the gaps between the two rectangles. Then I'll let that dry for a day or two. Now it's time to build my cake. I start with a layer of homemade vanilla cake. And in the middle, some homemade cream cheese buttercream. Go ahead and add all the other layers and a crumb coat. Now it's time for my final coat. I love this quick icer, it makes it so fast. This is a fun little tool I made out of a Mylar folder. Here I've got my fondant all rolled out. Drape it over the cake. I'll use my hands to smooth down the sides and use my fondant smoother to mark the bottom where I'm going to cut. What I have here are a few cake boards glued together, and then I've used royal icing to create that bevel look. Okay, now on to the decorating. So here I've traced a design onto a sheet of parchment paper, and I'm using a yellow food marker to color over the lines. This way the marker will bleed through the paper and leave a slight mark on the cake that I can follow when I start piping. I'll do 3 of these designs in all. And here you can see the design on the fondant. And now my favorite part of all, the piping. In my icing bag I have some turquoise royal icing. Right now I'm using a Wilton No. 18 star tip. I'll start with this upper scroll. Then with this third scroll, I'll start in the middle again, go around and all the way down. And with the bottom scrolls I'll do the same thing. Similar process on the other side. Then shells. And little shells. I didn't like that I did those too short, so I'm going to clean that off and try again. For this layer, I'm using a No. 2 writing tip. I'm just making little circles with the tip. Circle, 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 just like that. For this second scroll, I'm only making a smooth line. And again with the third scroll, going all the way to the center of the design. I'll do the same thing with the bottom, speed up the footage a little bit. And clean it up with a damp paintbrush. For the center design, I'm making little loops with my writing tip. And same thing on the other side. On the 2 outside shells, I'm going to make little scrolls, and then on the middle shell, I will do a loop, still using the No. 2 writing tip. This time, I'm coming back with brown royal icing, also thick consistency. This time, I'm using a No. 1 writing tip to pipe over the previous design. This first little scroll I'm showing you in real time, again, so you can see that the process does take a little patience. And on this scroll, I'm also going to do those little loop-de-loops. It really adds some beautiful texture to the design. A little texture on these scrolls. Oh, beautiful. Clean up that end. And then for the loop. And a little inside loop. Again, same thing on the other side.
On the top of the cake, I'm again using a template to follow. I'm just piping around these curves just like that. I didn't pipe this one as straight as I wanted it, so I'm using my damp paintbrush again to gently guide the icing back where I want it. And the second one, here we go. Oops! And if I was only doing one layer of icing, I would take that whole little piece off and start again. But since there's going to be another layer on top, it will cover that little break. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. Now I'll be piping another row using a number 1 Wilton writing tip. And I will keep it as close to that first row as possible. And I've also done a row on the inside, staying with the number 1 piping tip. I've got brown royal icing, and I'm piping this right on top of the middle row. Now I'll leave this tier to dry, and I will start working on the bottom tier. Here I have a wax paper template. I'm just using it to create even spaced marks around the top of the cake. This is where I'll be putting the shell decoration. Using a different template and an edible marker, I'm just going to trace some swags along the cake. These will be completely covered up in the end, so it doesn't matter how they look at this point. Now with the number 3 Wilton writing tip, I'll pipe right along that bottom line. Now I'll start piping my shells. For the shells, I'm using a number 21 Wilton star tip. It's looking very lovely so far. One of my favorite parts of decorating is the string work. I'll pipe these first turquoise swags with a number 2 Wilton writing tip. It didn't turn out exactly like I wanted it, so I'll just repipe that. And continue that pattern the rest of the way around the cake. Fix that little bit there. I've gone down one size in my tip. I'm now using a number 1 Wilton writing tip for these beautiful brown strings. And I'll pipe those right on top of the turquoise one. It adds a little relief and really makes that design pop. Now that I've done that all around the cake, I'm going to take my turquoise icing again and do the opposite shells all the way around the cake. A nice thin brown on top of it. I think it's so relaxing to watch string work being piped. Using the same number 1 tip, I've started making loops on these shells. I'll just continue to do that all the way around the cake. I love my tilting turntable. It is so perfect for Australian string work, which I'm starting now. For these strings, I'm actually using a size 0 tip. A size 00 tip can also be used. It depends on how delicate and thin you want the strings. I'll attach the string to the top, then I'll let gravity just pull it right down to the bottom. The first few strings I'm piping in real time, then I'll speed up the video. It probably took me about 2.5 to 3 hours to get all the way around the cake, but the time is well worth it. It looks so elegant and delicate and beautiful. Here's the last one, squeeze it in there. I'm using a little fondant paste here to seal off the gap down at the bottom. It's just a mixture of fondant, a little alcohol base, and a little bit of milk. This is a number 16 Wilton star tip. And I'm going to move the tip back and forth a little and then larger and then small again to create this swag type pattern right underneath the strings. Now using a Wilton number 16 star tip, I am going to pipe a row of small shells just underneath those wavy swags. I'm doing this to create just a little more variation. I'll just do that all the way around the cake. I will pipe some large star swags right along the line where the shells and the waves meet. Using the same star tip, I'll pipe some decorative shell designs right here at the bottom. Ooh, that is starting to look so nice. Now I'm going to let this harden for at least 20 minutes before I add anything else. Now it's time for the brown icing again. I'm using a number 1 writing tip again to pipe these very delicate swags over the star swags and then over the waves. And some little loops on the shell designs as well. Oh, this cake is looking so nice. Back to the size 14 star tip. I will just pipe little stars right along the top of the lacework. So I'll pipe 3, and while the stars are still wet, I'll stick a silver pearl right there in the center. I'll also add a little star with a pearl center down near the bottom swags and up at the top shells. These little pearls really help the design come together. They are beautiful finishing touches. Don't like the look of that big star up the top, so I'm just going to remove that and put only a pearl there. Gives it a little more dainty feel. And the last pearl right in there. Now it's time to stack my cake. Using some bubble tea straws, I insert it in just like that. I'll cut all of the straws the same length and stick them in the cake. A little royal icing, stick the top cake on. I'm going to very carefully lower the 6-inch cake onto the straw and let it rest on the 8-inch cake. Again, I'm using a little fondant paste to cover the crack between the 2 layers. I'll add some little stars and pearls on the top tier also to tie both designs together. Almost finished. Here I have a modeling chocolate brown rose that I've lightly sprayed with a silver luster spray. And I have a toothpick sticking into it, and I'm going to push it right in the center of that design. And the moment we've all been waiting for, the lattice work that I showed you at the beginning of the video. I'll add just a thin line of royal icing right along the edge. Position it gently, very, very gently. Press it onto the cake. Use my brush to clean up that edge a little bit. I'll do the same thing with the other 2. And to finish these little lattice pieces off, I will create a small pearl border just along the edge using a number 1 writing tip. And when I'm done with that, I will add just one more finishing line right at the top. It really makes it look neat. And that's it! Here is the finished cake in the round. I really love doing this cake.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I actually liked this design so much. I did another cake really similar. You can see that in the video I have in the screen. I'll also leave a link down in the description box. Bye!